Hi, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're coming from. I am Sasha Parrish, Associate Editor and Content Manager here at Promenade Media. Welcome to the last installment of this year's cultural webinar series, Being South Asian in America. I'm happy to introduce our moderator, Sharmila Fowler, co-founder and managing partner of Opalsphere. Take it away, Sharmila.
All right. Thank you, Sasha. And hello, everyone. Welcome to our panel, Being South Asian in America. I'm really delighted to be your moderator today. As Sasha mentioned, I am co-founder and managing partner of Opalsphere. We are a people first advisory firm which guides organizations through change at the intersection of culture, brand, and business strategy. I also serve as adjunct faculty at DePaul University's Driehaus College of Business, where I teach and facilitate workshops on DEI management, cultural competence, and inclusive leadership. And so, as someone who's spent my career at the intersection of DEI strategy, multicultural marketing, and HR, and at companies such as McDonald's and Echo Global Logistics, and as someone who is proudly identifies as South Asian, this conversation is both deeply professional and personal for me. A couple things about this topic, because if you're South Asian, you know that there's no single story that really captures us. Okay, we are a mosaic of different languages and faiths and histories and migration patterns and those family narratives that really shape how we show up in American society and in the workplace. And then for many of you who are not aware, when we say South Asian, we are referring to people with a heritage from that South Asian subcontinent, but that includes diverse countries such as India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, the Maldives, and there's probably more, but it's like there's a whole bunch of countries. So I just want everyone to sort of be aware of that. But really, what we want to do today is just talk about the complexity and what it feels to balance cultural heritage with the expectations of the American workplace and carrying those dual identities that we do and building the belonging in these environments where for a long time we've been present, but not always fully seen. So that's really what we're going to be talking about today. And we just want, the key insights we want everyone to really walk away with is really just a deeper understanding of how South Asians navigate identity, especially in professional spaces, an appreciation for our community and our impact across multiple industries, and also practical strategies to help South Asians in your workplace and in your networks advance. So, again, I'm honored to facilitate this conversation, and I want to welcome our panelists. Rachna Luthra, who is Director of Strategic Market Communications at Verizon, and then Poonam Gupta, who is founder and CEO of, is it pronounced ICA?
Aika.
ICA Enterprises, and she's also an author. So, with that, let's begin this dialogue. Let me see. I can start with Rachna. Maybe you can give a little bit of background and context to, who you are, and then I'd love to know how your South Asian heritage has really shaped your journey in America, both professionally and personally.
Sure. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. My name is Rachna Luthra. I was born in India and came to the US when I was one. I've spent 27 years in corporate America working across organizations of all sizes, from startups to Fortune 500 companies. And as Sharmila mentioned, most recently, I've been leading strategic communications, crisis management, and organizational change. I'm also a mom to three boys, navigating how to honor my Asian heritage while helping them write their own stories. So I'm really excited to be here today. I would say, to answer your question, I grew up in a predominantly white town. My parents spoke Hindi, Punjabi, English, and my dad primarily English with us, but we understood it all. But we always responded in English. And I think I was Indian at home, and but I assimilated as a pure American outside. So that's kind of how my journey has been.
Yeah, that's
You-
very interesting. And we'll come back to that, Rachna, because we share some similar stories there where I was born in India and came to this country when I was 2. And also had to sort of navigate both my Indian home and traditions and then the external environment where I was a lot of times the only Indian. But Poonam, I know you have a little bit of a different story, so would love to hear your journey and also your background about, what you're doing.
Sure. Thank you, Sharmila, and thank you to Pramana, the newer name, and just very happy to be here. Um, and thank you for the time. Well, my name is Poonam Gupta Krishnan. Long name, if Indian background will even decode where I'm from. So I am the founder and CEO of Aika Enterprises that has been around since 2000, providing data management services to large corporations and the government sector. And a lot of different things, and rolling out actually a book called Varna Know Your Why, and an alignment assessment platform that is based on Hindu Sanatana Dharma scriptures, modern psychology, and AI. So the AI has become go-to word today, but I have been on the data science and artificial intelligence since 2000. So yeah, it's been some time. So today I'm not introducing myself as a role, but as introducing myself as a journey, because it's a platform that I feel like that can connect a lot of dots. So I came to US like with a classic South Asian formula for success. I came as a student straight to the university. I started out with Illinois State University. My master's thesis, I was a chemist by training that did the MBA at Dartmouth, and started the journey of an entrepreneur and multiple ventures after that. But just the classic formula of Indian success: work hard, don't trouble anybody, don't take a space, say yes, deliver excellence, and then you would be rewarded. So like many of us, I followed the formula beautifully until it broke me. So achieving as a scientist, MBA, entrepreneur, but inside fragmented, like Rachna said, Indian at home, American at work. And that friction was not, it's kind of my authentic voice kind of got somewhere in between there. So,
Mhm.
the question, why do so many high performing South Asians succeed outwardly but struggle inwardly? Why do we shrink our brilliance, mute our intuition, and overwork our way into exhaustion? That led me to my work, and we'll talk about it later.
Just thank you for sharing, Poonam. Just out of curiosity, when did you realize this break? I'm just, was it mid-career? Was it later, early? Just trying to also understand that.
Yeah, Shamla. So it was not like a one defining moment. It's a bit by bit, and out of college, you get to the job, and I have two beautiful kids. Both are grown. My son is finishing up master's. My daughter already graduated and working. So it's like you get to the grind 24/7, and then when the kids just kind of stabilize a little, then you get to what why it's more money, more name, more out, more friends. and come back and feel like something is missing. So I think it's a culmination over period of time, but I think the bigger thing came during pandemic that forced us to be inside the four walls, and you have more time to reflect and more time to kind of go, you know, do things that you have never done before. So if I have to put a marker, I would say, around pandemic time, things kind of came together and I had more time to read, more time to reflect, take notes, do research. So that helped me a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. Um, as we think about, our professional journey, and I want to just kind of jump to this question about challenges that we face, and I want to go to you, Rachna, navigating this cultural identity and workplace expectations. But I also want to kind of touch on something we talked about a little bit earlier when we were prepping for this, is the family expectations for our professional careers, right? Because this is something that we hear over and over again about family playing a big role in kind of directing, right? As to, we really need to go into these kinds of professions.
Sure.
And then once we're there, talking about those challenges, right? But because I know myself, my father being a scientist, it was always math and science that we were kind of being pushed into. And, we were given options for careers that all had to do around math and science, or STEM as we talk about it now. And I did start off that way, but I veered off after an MBA into marketing and eventually into diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Mhm.
But Rachna, I think you had something similar.
Correct. Yes. So I, was raised, you got to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, and I took a different path of communications. And, I don't think till today my parents really know what I do. I don't think I'm confident they don't know what the strategy is, how does it work in a corporate environment. And navigating the corporate world was something I just did on my own. I learned every day, but the principles that I have learned growing up is how I applied it to my job. So, I was 5 years into my job at McDonald's Corporation. My job had grown significantly. I pulled the director job profile, and I was doing this job for about 2 years. And I went to my boss, and who's my mentor, and I said, I've been doing this for so long. Why am I not a director? And which was very bold for me, doing that. And he told me, to work on speaking up in leadership meetings on the business, not just on communications. He gave me some things to work on, talk about the operations side. And I'm like, well, I don't have an operations background, but he really helped me to think as a leader. And and one of the things that he told me was, you need to be an advocate for yourself. And as I was watching people around me getting promoted, they were younger, smaller scope of jobs. And that difference was that they advocated for themselves. So that to me was my wake up call. And, I think the biggest challenge for me was unlearning the belief that my work would speak for itself. Because, you're taught like you don't speak up, you don't ask for raises, you wait to be pretty much tapped on the shoulder. So, I learned that excellence without visibility is just, it's invisible excellence, right? So I had to learn to speak up in meetings, advocate for opportunities before I was fully qualified, and make my work visible. And that felt like bragging. It took me, it took some learning on my part, and it was against everything that I was taught. But I also had to navigate being seen as too nice early in my career and being bold and speaking up in leadership meetings. So it's really ends up being a balance of what you've learned growing up, having those great work ethics and
Mhm.
skills, but then also navigating the American culture of being bold in the boardroom and
Yeah.
navigating. world.
No, that's great because you were able to kind of see what was working for maybe some others and then apply that to your own career. So I really love that, Rachna. I mean, that's good. Poonam, you have
Yeah, I have an addition. It's pretty interesting, actually. So you guys came in as a kid. I came
yes.
as an adult,
Yep.
straight to the master's program. And so I was able to see the Indian culture a little bit more closely, intimately.
Yes.
And what Rachna said, coming up and speaking up for yourself, and I think I still struggle with it. Just still learning. However, what difference I saw, and that's what I have actually a whole chapter on my book about the leadership. So it's like the expectation of you do your work the best you can, and you will get promoted. The Indian culture was such that manager is not a manager. Manager is like your big brother, big daddy, who the leadership in India, what I saw growing up was more of not mentoring. I mean, it is mentoring, but not giving you a task to do, the goals to meet. All of that is kind of, yeah, taken for granted. But it's like, okay, I in my department, if there are 20 people, I those 20 people are my kids to see who is better at what. And the leaders actually look more closely to their team, and okay, this guy or this gal is good in this, and they keep promoting. So there was never a need to speak out for self promotion because there was somebody. Now here the things just flipped. Now if you don't speak, nobody knows you, because even the boss, even the senior VP is busy with his task, his goals, his things, and everything else has to fall in place. And that aha moment gave me something that, you know what, we can learn from each other's culture to be the better version of ourselves.
Yes. And I think that's that diversity coming in, the diversity of leadership styles
Mhm.
and how do you take the best of, and optimize how you lead, right? And Poonam, since you've had some experience also in India, right? I think you've got, a good perspective on that. My parents never worked in corporate in India. They
I
were
did work so there, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, my father, again, I had mentioned, was a scientist, a professor, and my mother, an English teacher.
Mhm.
So, educators and academics. And so I didn't have anyone to help me navigate, and I didn't have any firsthand experience
Mhm.
with that. And I didn't have a lot of South Asian friends when I first started working in corporate. I took a job and I was placed in sales for a big tech company in South Carolina. So again, I go, to a place where there's not a lot of South Asians. So that's sort of, I was just learning on the fly.
Yeah.
That works too.
Yeah, yeah, that works as well. You just get, you have to really learn and study. Um, but when we think about, South Asians, a lot of us think about South Asians in technical roles and analytic roles, right? But less so in executive leadership roles.
Mhm.
And so, we know we have to advocate and do all this stuff, but what are those barriers and those mindsets from up top, right, that contribute to this and the placement of people within those kinds of roles, but not necessarily moving up.
Sure.
Either. Yeah.
Uh, I can go ahead
Go
with
ahead,
it.
Rachna.
Sure,
Yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, so yeah, that's the biggest barrier here is that South Asians, they're valued for execution excellence,
Hmm.
not necessarily seen as strategic voices. So, I had a manager in my career once tell me that I wasn't strategic. And here I thought I was. I'm like reading the Harvard Business Review. And he wasn't strategic himself, but that's a whole different panel. what I realized was that I just wasn't vocal about it.
Yeah.
So, you know, so that really taught me you have to say what you're thinking. You have to show you're thinking strategically, not just thinking it quietly to yourself. And, it's the barrier that I mentioned earlier is cultural conditioning. We're taught to respect hierarchy, to wait to be recognized, but in America, corporate culture, waiting means overlooked, right? So
Yes, I
there's
love. Yeah.
actual research that shows that when South Asian, specifically women, professionals speak up, they come off as very assertive. And they're sometimes seen as aggressive, and while others saying the same thing are seen as confident. So we get less latitude. And I know many other diverse groups have, I've, talked to many female professionals, and they've had the same opportunities, struggles, whatever you would like to call it, but we can get less latitude in how we express confidence or disagreement. And, we're not often encouraged to build community with other South Asians. At least I wasn't growing up. And I don't know if it's, you know, our competitive nature that you just stay in your lane, but I also think is that success, like growing up, we were never told we were different. We knew we looked different. It was you are educated. Everyone around you is getting the same education. It's a fair game out there, and you know that's something where it's really something. We have to. I go back to my first boss at McDonald's. He was my mentor, and he said something that changed my perspective. He said, he really wanted me to get involved in a diverse network group. And I didn't want to. I felt like, why would I do that? I grew up here. I had the same education. They have the same education. Like, why do I need to segment myself out when I'm been building to assimilate my entire life? And, he said something that really changed my perspective. And he said, maybe they need you. And when you're the only one in the room, you think your experience is unique. But when you build community, you realize it's systemic then.
Yeah. No, what great advice, right?
Yeah.
Because then you joined and you kind of felt,
Yeah.
right? Uh, Sort of
Yeah.
this.
Felt heard, felt seen. Correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. Yeah. What about you, Poonam? What are your thoughts?
Well, you know what? This is the thing. This is the point that triggered me to write the book, to make an application to work on it. So when you said that most of us are seen as a geeky, nerdy, not the leadership or strategic. However, I am delighted to share this. We are more strategic than any of the Western corporation acknowledges. And here is the example. So we are looking at the history of about 200 to 300 years maximum. And I am bringing to you the scriptural historical accounts of the reigns that lasted 1200, 1500, 2100 years. Extremely successful when you have the stability, not every 4 years elections and the frictions. Your community grows with now they that part is settled. Now focus on you know different aspects of life, from history to culture to science to building to architecture and whatnot. And from that, there was one very, very scientific structure that has got misconstrued over the years. It's called Varna system. Varna. Varna literally means hue. So there was a very scientific way of having the categories of three major categories of the characteristics that makes four varnas of broader categories, and within the varnas, and I'll get to that, just I hope I can take extra minute on that.
Yeah.
uh, and the whole system was designed to create an ecosystem for each. Think about customization. Each individual, that individual, no matter whether you are a carpenter, housemaker, or a researcher, or a surgeon, or whatever have you, it
Yeah.
gives you the most optimum ecosystem within your house community, a workplace that brings out the best in you? How would that be? Do you even need the DEI after that?
But what was it? Was it something that
I will tell you. So that's the framework. So that's called Varna Vyavastha or Varna system. It's the, defining your personal hue in different stages of life. That stages in Hindi was called ashramas, like the student stage, your family stage, your
got it? Yes.
maturity stage, and final
Your
stages,
stages of life.
stages of life. And then there is something called purushartha, means what is the ultimate goal in each areas. So you have the compass, not hard rules to work around it. And once you have understood that, and that was a prominent in the whole society, so now what you got is a very strong uh, social structure, if I may call it, that helps each one thrive. So that's how my book's name is Varna, Know Your Why you do what you do, how you do, and how you can improve. And then I have taken this and used of modern psychology and AI tools, and building a very robust assessment that not only takes care. I mean, we have enough of technical assessment, behavioral assessment, all of that. Here we are doing the Varna mapping, and there is a framework that I have developed. It's called Varna CQ, consciousness quotient, and this is patent pending actually right now. So now once you have your Varna CQ number, you really can see where is the missing point. And some people may not what is called moving up the ladder. It's what, more recognition, more money, right? More responsibility. But if you take a, say, a developer, a coder, into a management, this person doesn't want to talk to somebody, but
So are
he
you
wants or she wants to go up because there's more money, more recognition, and all of that. But how do you know? So that's what
right?
we have decoded.
So when we talk about South Asians being, often present in these technical roles, right? Are you also thinking that they might want to stay in those roles rather than
Not
go,
everybody.
you
No, no,
know,
no, no, no. So South Asians majority came as a techies here. So that's what the perception came from.
yes, yes.
My point here is no, South Asians are way more strategic in a very subtle way that
Mm-hmm.
slides into every structure
Yeah,
rather than what you call a strategy. They go way more deeper. You talk about three, four, five dimension, they go 50 dimensions.
yeah,
And then when they culminate everything into one place, they are a leaders beyond. So not most of the, like many times you might have seen, especially Indians, big CEOs, they are no different from you and I.
yeah.
They just got to attach themselves to who they were, their heritage was, and that took another turn. Now when we fit in is good, like how Rachna was saying in our previous conversations, that we want to learn different perspective, but at the same time we should be not only proud, we should be encouraged to bring our perspective.
Yes.
That synergy brings a way higher quality, whether it's in any kind of strategy approach, guidance, any of that.
So if we, and I think that's good. I mean, these are great thoughts to think about in terms of, sort of that perception of the fact that we do end up in a lot of, the technical analytic roles. But when we think about like the executive leadership, what do you think their mindsets are about South Asians, right? Because I think that kind of gets to this question about when we're advocating for ourselves, what do we need to advocate so we can reach those positions? Because we have to be able to convince these executives that we are worthy of the C-suite. I'm just going to throw
Yeah.
that out there,
Sure,
right?
sure.
But they have, for better term, like a bias.
And I cannot disagree with you. 200% on the dot, and you both are well versed on that, but I'll just share my observation. First of all, they and we, that's the problem.
Yes.
Okay. So number one is when we are lesser in numbers, and people like people who look like themselves,
Yes.
each other. Even though, even my kids who were born in USA, they look brown, right?
Yes.
And they face the same challenges that I did. But then I can speak from the parent side of the world that teaches them how to navigate. So number one, there are multiple things. Number one, we got to help each other out to be their voice, because by DNA we would not speak out for ourselves. It's a learning. We takes decades to learn to stand up for ourselves. Not that we don't know what we are doing, we definitely know what we are doing. That's number one. Number two, what I have seen is, um, build the smaller communities in your workplace, in your corporation, wherever you're working. Hear each other out. You could be anything. You could be Vietnamese, Chinese, Indian, Bangladeshis, whatever. We are able to speak out much cleanly in a smaller group than going to the networking group and trying to pitch ourselves, and we don't do that.
Yeah. So you're talking about like the employee affinity groups, like the ERGs and
Absolutely.
the BRGs and,
Absolutely. Smaller group, five
like
people.
what Rachna joined, what I've, also been part of and I've
Yeah.
led. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's another thing. And then most important thing is, wherever wherever your power is, whichever department, whichever organization, you create an atmosphere to encourage people to be themselves, not only having a Diwali day to bring, or any other, or Eid day to have the ethnic wear. No, no, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But bring being proudly bringing out their heritage, as I said, how I went back to our scriptures, there are like at least 5,000 year old, and got something else like that blew my head away. I was like, gosh, we can create. We talk about custom education, custom leadership, custom. Here is a custom to individual, no matter where that person is.
Mm.
And it took me 30 years to learn it, right? But then I work in my capacity to bring it out to the people, everyday people, so they don't spend 30 years. They can spend 30 days to come to the point. The point I'm trying to make is acknowledging where we are, using our power to what we can do, so that, like, say 5 people report to you or 15 people report, they feel comfortable to be themselves to you.
Yes.
That's,
Yes.
that's what I observe. If I have a decent sized team, and I encourage each of my team members, of each of my manager. So how about that? How was the Eid this time? Yeah, you made the semi. Hey, but this guy who had some whatever that was dumpling. That I'm making a mistake, but that person is bringing out to me, saying, "Hey, that this is why we do it, and this weather or this season we do it, and because that's they had the whole thing." But we have to learn to give an ear to that as
So
managers.
I think you're touching on sort of this whole notion of curiosity, right? And being curious about the people you're leading, and I think that helps because then you're able to share, right?
Yes.
Experiences, stories, and so forth.
That gives them a authority to bring it out bigger and better.
Yeah, because you're asking questions,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Um, and I think you said something, Puna. I'm going to ask you, Rachna, too. In terms of because you said something about beyond like the Diwali celebration or these cultural celebrations, right? When we talk about this meaningful inclusion, yes, you help bring people together with these celebrations, but what else do you feel you could do? And Racha, I know being in, the Asian affinity group, where you were last at when you mentioned McDonald's, um, just talk a little bit about some other ideas that, you may feel would work for inclusion, just at any company, really, from your perspective.
Sure. So, Poonam, did you want to go? I don't know. Is it?
I mean,
I,
it's
I would. I can go ahead. That's fine.
yeah,
I was.
yeah. It's more
For
just
her.
I'm sort of just jumping around because I know we
Yeah.
talked a little bit about, sort of going beyond just cultural celebrations to create that feeling of, belonging, I guess, and how
Yes.
people feel included.
Yeah, I mean, groups are great, but there's no one size fits all for
Yeah.
everyone. And it's even, just how different Poonam's background is versus my background and what different challenges that we've had. So I would say it's really, yeah, it's great celebrating Diwali, catering and food, but that's not what it's about. It's really about understanding on, okay, here's a group of, strong individuals who were not taught to speak up, were not taught to advocate for themselves, might not know what, how to, how do you execute, know how to execute, but how do you show that success to the leadership, So that's something where those skill sets are very helpful. And I would love to see corporations, go more towards that versus just, it's a holiday, it's on the calendar, check. That's what it kind of feels like in this day and age. So,
Right. Because I
yeah,
think people feel so busy. They're like, okay, this month is coming up. We got
yeah,
to quickly plan it and then be done.
Be
Right.
yep,
done with
yep,
it. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And I think it's
Versus,
Yeah.
yeah.
finding people who are sponsors, not just mentors, like people who, who believe in you and they'll back you up through the process, even if you don't believe in yourself. And, that's true sponsorship and
Yes.
building infrastructure with others. When you create space for others, you're changing the system. So
I
that,
want to interject one thought that I recently heard from a scholar. I forgot his name. For heaven's sake, I can see his face, but not the name. But nonetheless, he said, civilization and growth, what a Western world thinks is the civilization, it's one of the many civilizations. So working it this way, processing it this way, yeah, it's good. However, that is not the only way. You know, uh, Chinese had their own, Japanese had their own. No, they don't interfere with each other, but each one progress within their setup very beautifully. So when we sponsor, or when the corporates are sponsor, or when we sponsor our team, we bring that in front of them. You know how your great grandkid parents to parents, how they are doing things, and let them do things. We will be surprised how many greatest thing comes out, greatest innovation comes out of those mix of evolved civilization versus one Western civilization.
Yeah. No, very, very interesting.
we get excited. We get excited when we see the CEO of Chanel is Indian,
Yes.
president for CEO for Pepsi was Indian because
Yes.
we can now see ourselves in those roles
And that
versus
reminds me, Rachna, that Indra Nooyi, the former PepsiCo CEO, she said the first time when she went to interview, the clothes won't fit her. And then her mentor said, "Hey, what would you have worn if you were in India?" She said, "Sari." Okay, where's the sari? And she just keep flying up. So when we own
Yes.
ourselves,
Yes.
when you look at the background of any of these big CEOs, you will see they embrace their heritage not as a show off, but what their inner makeup is.
Yeah, it's kind of what made them and what kind of, yep.
Yes,
And
so that
you
that
feel more
comfort.
comfortable
Uh-huh.
and that sometimes leads to being more confident. It just depends.
So
Um,
confidence is not something like this. This is the definition of confidence. The confidence also comes from, I know I am comfortable within my skin. However, you know, I mean, my day starts at 4:30 a.m. If I tell a lot of people saying you are crazy, yeah, it ends at 9:30 too.
yeah,
So, it's just,
but that's
2 hours.
what works for you. And
That
that's
works
what
for
makes
me.
you
And that does
successful.
not mean that that is the only right way, but that's the right way for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we mentioned, you mentioned sponsor and mentor and, on all this. And I want to understand what role that either mentorship or sponsorship or even just support from the larger, community of maybe South Asians, how has that played into your success?
Oh, I would say a huge part because that's the guidance
Yeah.
that I have seen. Like we didn't learn that at home. We didn't learn about the corporate. And I was able to take a career that is, not the average career for a South Asian person and make it into
Communications. Yeah.
something. So, you know, I was taught by, again, I go back to my first boss at McDonald's, who's my mentor, get comfortable with discomfort, speak up when you were asked, even, it feels wrong, but you do it. And one of the things also along my way, just, listening to podcasts and speaking with people is you have to document your impact in business terms, right? So we have to, like for my example, I didn't just lead communications. I drove a 3.7 sales increase. And that gives you credibility
Yeah.
Absolutely.
on what we're doing as well. So, in various backgrounds, we would have to do that. So, really showing that business impact is, we get away from that executor role to the leadership role.
And you credit your mentor maybe for helping kind of frame that for you or kind of steer you in that direction a little
Yeah, I
bit?
think my mentor uh, gave me what he taught me was, be a business leader, not
Hmm.
just a communicator.
Yes, I love
So that's where I was like, yeah, and I was all about, I've got my MBA, I am a business leader, I have this, but really, how does it impact the business? Speak up on the business where, 20 years ago, that was a big challenge for me. It was a learning curve for me. And I am more confident where I can do that now. It's like, if you have to seat at that table with leadership team, which I have been fortunate to have, you're not coming in as a communications professional. When you're in that room, you're coming in as a business leader to provide a perspective on the business.
Yeah. And that's what everyone cares about in the end, how
Yes,
well business is doing, right? Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
That's great. What about you, Poonam? And any mentors, sponsors, or just the community in general, playing a role for your just advancement, growth professionally?
I would say I've had too many of them.
Okay, that's good, right? It's better to,
What it means is even the ones who kicked me hard in a wrong way, that taught me this is not the way it's gonna go. So understand, I worked in a corporate for about 7 years, right? Before I had my own thing. And along the way, a lot of people guide us in the right direction. A lot of people hurt us big time. And those hurt teaches us bigger lessons, not in a negative way, but in a way that tells, okay, I understand the psychology of don't mess with men's ego or women's emotion. Okay. Or, hey, you don't have to explain everything, just show it. Hey, you know what? You don't have to be everywhere or you don't have to be right in everything. And you don't have to prove yourself. And all of these lessons, multiple people, situations, and even Pam is a dearest friend of mine and absolutely phenomenal human being. But you come rub her on the wrong side, she will tell you that's not how it works. And that's a learning too. So to me, um, if I have to summarize, the more and more I went centered in myself, that comes from my heritage, that comes from my, like the daily practices of discipline, of meditation, of, different things. The more and more I got centered in myself, the more and more I got aware of my mentors outside.
Yeah, I 100% agree with
Right.
that. I would say last 3 years I really became more spiritual. I meditated more, and it's if you are centered on the inside, nothing can shake your world on the outside. Nothing. It doesn't
But then
matter
you
what.
get aware, yeah, you get
Yeah.
aware of the
Yeah,
learning.
I
Otherwise,
love that.
just
Yeah. So if you're centered inside, it doesn't matter what the outside looks like.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got, I mean, I feel like there are so many, like, like how they say the space between the two breath, right? The flicker of somebody's twitch on the face, or that, you know, I would have missed it. I'm keep missing forever. The more you come inside, the more you look outside. It's not
Yeah.
the reverse. It never happens the reverse. So yeah.
That, that's great. I mean, just does that, I love that because it's just kind of, if you can build that strength internally, right?
Mhm, mhm.
That
And that
will,
comes from embracing your own heritage.
Yes.
yes,
And it takes
yes,
work.
Because that takes like
Yes.
generations of building your DNA. It's
Yeah.
already in your DNA. If you own it, that you have like 10,000 years of learning already in your database.
Yeah. It's removing your limiting beliefs and just
Absolutely.
being true to who you are. Yeah.
Absolutely.
so as you do that and as you build strength and you embrace yourself and you try to bring your authentic self to work, I know we use that term a lot or that phrase. Um, I know that, we've all worked in sort of um, different types of fields, but also similar in terms of corporate and all of that. But I want to talk about biases that we might have experienced while we're trying to, do this. We're trying to be strong. We're trying to, embrace our heritage, but yet we can all still encounter biases.
Absolutely.
I've seen these biases
Oh, we
occur.
all have. Mhm.
Yeah. And so I wanted to see if you all would be, willing to share either what you might have experienced or what you've maybe seen others experience. Because I've had a lot of people, come to me also as well to say, I felt this and I don't know, I felt like people just didn't understand me.
Rachna, you wanna go?
Everyone's thinking,
I probably have 360 degrees turn on that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And Poonam, I know you were talking about, even just like when, and I've seen this too, when people bring Indian food in for lunch,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
I
mhm,
mean, there can be a bias
mhm,
there,
mhm. Big time.
right?
Mhm,
Yeah. And so, those are and it could be a positive bias, like, oh my God, I love, because bias is not always negative,
mhm.
but in a lot of cases, we do have these biases that kind of derail us a little bit, even though we're trying to build that strength and build ourselves, and tie ourselves to our cultural heritage.
Right. So I would say, see, biases come from not knowing, right?
Yeah. Yes.
When we are like 8, 10, 12, 15, 20, we are the victims of these biases. I'm sure you have seen that.
Yes.
But as we grow, we are also victims. But then you know what? As we further grow, I saw the biases I had for other things.
Yes.
Okay. And then I go like, oh my gosh, is this me? And then yeah. So it's like, I don't want to go too personal, but hey, um daughter seeing some other culture guys, how can you do that? And then I stepped back and I said, really? Was that me? Where is it coming from? So that's coming from the place. That's what we were talking about. The It's in the DNA of the generations of learning. It's not wrong and it's not right. It's more we are aware of our ourselves and our surrounding, we catches our biases and others biases, and when we understand others biases, we can empathize more than getting mad. To begin with, when I started as an entrepreneur in IT, a woman with that too, very soft spoken. I mean, I'm kind of rough now, but
Were you soft spoken when you first started?
I, yeah,
Growth. So
very
that's growth.
See, there you
growth.
go.
That's
Yeah,
growth. That's growth.
yeah.
Very soft spoken, and I was dismissed every time, and I go like, maybe they probably know a lot more than I do, and I go like, really, how? So when I checked, they were way dumber than I could imagine. But then I said, okay, this is coming from they just don't know. So you got to keep standing. Yeah, is it easy? No. It has multiple layers on individual basis. Stand your grounds. You will be punched enough times, but you have to have the resilience and self-respect to get right back up again. But then again, as we are the observer of somebody else is going through the bias, we give a pat to one person and we give pat to the other person and try to bring them to that level to understand. If we can, we can do it all the time, but building each other up in this today's world going forward, where AI has democratized all the knowledge from the world, right? So we
Although
have to
we can say
democratize
that there's
each
still
other.
bias,
Yeah.
right, within
Right, right, right,
AI. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. And AI, by the way, is hugely biased.
Yes.
So I created a system that does not exist anywhere in the digital world. Guess what? I said I will build it, and no AI can answer any of that. You know why? Because it is only trained from what has been out there. So
Mhm.
if we depend on AI and let go of the our separate individualities and the heritage, we miss out the best quality that can be.
Yeah.
So all of that biases are good, but
Well,
owning it, learning it, moving forward is what it takes.
it is. It's knowing, recognizing that you have a bias and then trying to figure out how do you mitigate or overcome, right? And I think everybody has biases.
Absolutely.
And and so it's making sure that that doesn't get in the way of decision making, of making people feel like they belong within within your team, within your organization, with a department, organization, what have you, right?
Mhm.
And so and I think maybe having us, starting off like I go back to this whole notion of curiosity,
Mhm.
because how do we get people in general to be more curious, to ask questions? And maybe that starts with us asking them also, because it is.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
biases result when you have less knowledge, right? You're not as educated about a certain topic or a certain group or a certain community.
Yeah. So I would go back to the awareness,
Yes.
right? The more aware we are of ourselves, it's the acknowledgement of ourself first opens the door for acknowledgement for outside.
Yeah.
And when we shut ourselves down, it's not we are how do we encourage others. We don't encourage ours. We keep bringing our truth to our center. This is my truth and I own it.
Yeah.
When we own our truth and speak that truth, others are automatically encouraged to bring their truth. So, what I mean, the modern psychology is this aspects, I kind of disagree, not 100%, but quite a bit, is the self-help, the encouragement does not work from outside. It will work for that day, maybe another week. Then
But
what?
it's not long lasting.
It can't, because it has to connect to your soul, your center. I mean, our center. We when you know we mirror each other, no matter how you say it,
Yeah.
all the time. When I speak from my soul, your soul automatically starts opening up.
Mhm.
You don't fear saying your truth if I share my truth.
Yes.
And
Becomes a
that's, in
comfort.
my world, that is the encouragement.
Yeah.
You don't lecture about, hey, you should talk like that, you should stand like this, you should dress like that, that's a confidence. No, that's me. And my daughter taught me, even as a like young teen. Our Asian parents, right? I wanted her to have this dress and that, and she is like more of a tomboy. And then I'll go to some, like, they see the Indian gatherings and they say, hey, look at that girl is looking so pretty. Yeah, she will say, yeah, she was looking pretty. Yeah, she was. Hey, why don't you dress up like? Well, she likes it that way and I like it this way. And I go like, okay. That's what I meant by learning from each other.
Yes, you learn from each other, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm actually watching our time, and for our session, before we go to Q&A and open it up, I want to ask sort of one last question, because as you know, we've been talking a lot about South Asians and sort of our heritage and the workplace, but in one sentence or two, how do you hope the perception of South Asian Americans will evolve over the next decade? What are you hoping for? What would you like to see?
Um, I can go.
Go ahead, Rachna.
I
Yeah,
would say I hope the next generation doesn't have to compartmentalize South Asian at home, American at work. I hope, they can,
love it.
and that organizations recognize bringing both identities to work is the asset that
Yes,
it is. So that would be
yes. It's like a seamless, you're right. You just can
absolutely.
be
Yeah.
yourself, the same self.
Just, yeah, no friction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's needed, me. So it's like, yeah, we need that. Well, I hope the next decade sees South Asian recognized not just for intelligence, but for the consciousness, for the ability to lead with a depth, empathy, and alignment. That would be my desire.
That's fantastic. I love it. So we all need to work towards that. We can start now, but thank you both. This has been fantastic, and I would love to now look at some of these questions. And Erica is going to be posting some. So she
Yes.
has posted, and I'd love for either one of you to take this. How does the model minority stereotype affect the mental health of South Asian Americans, especially with pressure to succeed in school and work? And what can we do to challenge the stereotype? So,
From whose eyes is the question? From the kid's eye or the parent's eye or the social eyes?
I think, well, it's talking about, with pressure because there's mental health, issues with like this whole model minority myth, right? Where we are the model minority, and we are always successful.
Mhm.
Okay. But as we know, South Asians, and in the larger context of Asian Americans, when we talk about this, we are extremely diverse
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
in all areas, including educational levels, income level, everything, right? And so, how does that affect the mental health? Because there is intense pressure to get not just that A, but that A plus, right? To go not just to this university, but that university. Um, oh my God, we have a lot of questions here. Okay.
No, this is keep going. Rachna, you
Yeah,
want to answer first?
yeah, yeah. So what can we do to challenge? I think this is the biggest thing. Also, challenging the stereotype, um, and also discussing a little bit about how it affects the mental health.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's definitely a pressure, right? We have immense pressure to achieve perfection
Yes.
in academics and careers, the college you went to, the person you married, the person's family you married into,
Yes.
all of
Yes.
it, right? So it doesn't stop at just the workplace. But I think, I know this generation, they're starting to speak up more. You
Mhm.
know, I thought I was bold growing up, but what I see now, it's these women, men are so bold and they create their own narratives and they talk about their because mental health is not a thing in the South Asian community.
Right.
It is not talked about. Feelings are not talked about. You know, you don't grow up saying I love you, sweetie. It's There's none of that, right? You just know it. You know it, but you don't grow up that way. So there is, I would say it's really the more people that come up and speak up about this is what happened to them, this is their story. There's this woman who I follow on, I think, like a lot of channels. I don't know her personally. Her name is Simi Shah. I don't know if you guys have probably heard of her. She brings trailblazers, Indian trailblazers together. And I truly think she's the trailblazer because she brings all these people together, but it's people who have not taken the status quo career paths and have been musicians. They've been, maybe a therapist, all these various things or social media influencers, things that are not what we are used to seeing. And
Yes.
long story short, to answer that question, the more people that come up and speak about that, it's going to change. It's going to change the way we look at mental health, all of it. Yeah,
Yeah. And I think you hit upon it too, is just we don't talk about mental health in general,
absolutely. Yeah.
right? It's like you don't want to know that, so, or talk about somebody in your family with mental health,
Oh, yeah.
dealing with
Even if
that.
someone has a sickness, we don't talk about what the sickness is. We don't know how somebody died of a sickness. We just know
That had to do with, yes, yes.
it's
I see that more protective in the US among South Asian. When I was in India, it's okay. Yeah, he's sick. He's taking treatment. No big deal.
But yeah, and maybe that is true. That can be, sort of that big difference. And it's a difference of those individuals that have come here. But a lot of that model minority myth is associated with the Asian Americans or the South Asians also as a
absolutely.
subset here, right? Okay, let's just kind of go on to, there's a couple other questions that I'm seeing here. What's one thing you wish your colleagues understood better about the South Asian experience in corporate America?
Say many of us are navigating this for the first time. We didn't have, you
I love
know,
that. Yes.
parents who were already, it's like this is what you do in a boardroom, this is how you're going to navigate the life, this is how you work on your performance review, this is how you speak up about your next. We didn't have those, so I think it's just understanding that I may sound like I was born here and grew up here, but I wasn't, and I had, very traditional immigrant parents who did an amazing job with me. But
Exactly.
the point is that we don't have that. So we're learning as we're growing. Much of what I learned about corporate America was just watching, listening, seeing people and wanting to be that. And my manager at McDonald's, who taught me things that probably was like, you should know this, but it was him teaching me for the first time.
Yeah.
So it's like one thing you wish your colleagues understood better about the South Asian and experience in corporate America. I will say one thing in addition to what Rachna said.
Yeah.
Uh, Understand we by culture wants to know you, and we want you to know us if you want to work with us, because you are bringing great qualities and we are bringing them too. So
Yeah.
when we have to just do one way, there is an inner divide, and that does not serve you or serve me. So it's not like one is doing favor to the other, one is enriching the other by accepting the differences and being a little bit more patient to watch, to converse and try to understand. If you don't understand, just don't put it down.
So a lot of relationship building, I think you're alluding
Yeah.
to, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's very important in when you're doing business, right? And working with these people. One thing I want to add, and that is, the lack of, my parents not understanding corporate, is also the lack of those networks that a lot of my parents' friends had in place in other corporate settings and other, they could count on people within their networks that were deep and wide. And we didn't have that.
And
That
that's
works
so true. That's so
yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Even South Asian women, especially, how many successful South Asian women do you know in your circle?
Yeah.
Right? So whatever little we have to help each other out,
Yes. Yes.
because there's no role model. That's the whole thing, right?
No, definitely. Speaking of which, how do you stay connected to your cultural identity while pursuing roles in environments where very few people look like you? Like, hence role models, right? Um, so we kind of touched on this, like we want to make sure that we are keeping true to our identity, but there's also this level of how do we move up and pursue these roles that we want to advance our career, whichever way we want to advance it, where we don't see people who look like us.
So I would say fill your cup first. Your stomach has to be full before
Yeah.
you go out in the world where that does not fill. So say you are a musician, you are an artist, you like to go to do every Sunday temple puja, whatever is your filling the cup. When you are satisfied within yourself, when you go out where people don't look like you, talk like you, smell like you are way more comfortable. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. Thank you. Poonam. Rachna, do you have anything to add for that?
Yeah, I think it's sharing your stories now. We have more awareness, just in general, people, our food is being represented more in local mainstream stores. People, for fast casual restaurants are so people are aware, are becoming more aware. So I think it's just really maybe telling your story. Like I'm more comfortable saying, well, yeah, I didn't grow up that way. So that's, like I will come out and say that now, where 15 years ago, I would have never said that. Never said that.
And I think also just kind of to Poonam's point about that building the relationships,
Yes.
trying to, and that gets at also telling your story and, kind of
Yeah,
sharing.
build
So
your
it's
own
all
narrative. Yeah.
it's all kind of tied together. And then there's this question about for those of us early in our careers, what's one practical step we can take to find mentors or sponsors who truly support our growth?
That's always been the question that I've had because I mean, you were from McDonald's as well. It's like finding mentors was a big thing. And I'm like, oh my God,
Yes.
like who do I find? What do I do?
Yes.
And I didn't look. And then when you don't look is you find the people. But yesterday I reached out to someone on LinkedIn and don't know if they'll respond to me, but I'm like, I set it up like not looking for a job, just want to, because we get a lot of those messages.
Yes.
And it was a South Asian gentleman who is a leader in communications and corporate affairs for an organization, and I wanted to sit with them and kind of talk about like, okay, where do I pivot my career? How do I get to that level? What do I need to do? Hearing it, knowing, he understands. You feel a little bit more at home when you can share that with someone like, this is how I was raised, this is what I want to do. And this is what the world is like. How do I do that? So I think it's sometimes the resources you've got now out there with, just social media, going and messaging someone, I would say go for it. You might not hear back from somebody, then they're not meant for you, but just go for it. You connect with Boom and myself, just reach out to people that could really help and support you.
Yeah, and I was going to say that too, going to these kinds of webinars,
Yeah.
learning more, and then connecting with all of us. We're
Yeah.
all happy to, share our stories and see if there's ways we can continue. But to help you, especially when you're early career. But Poonam, what else do you have? Anything?
Well, I would say from the eyes of, again, giving back side of the world. So if you're in early career, understand the people you got to be learning, like this webinar. And wherever you feel the connect, reach out.
Yeah.
Understand these highly successful people are extremely busy people, extremely busy, because it took them long time to get to where they are, and then they want to invest all the time for their own growth as well, right? So the best advice I can give is, if you like somebody, you're tuned, be extremely respectful, spend your energy, time, learn about them, and find out what exactly you want to get from them. Don't ever go to any mentor and open your briefcase and say, pick whatever tool you want and sketch something for me that will make my life better. No, that doesn't work like that. You learn from about them. You reach out with a curiosity and with a very, as much clarity. I wouldn't say very clear. I mean, yeah, that would be ideal, but as clear as you can get, and say, you know what, I wish I knew this piece of this person, or how would this person would navigate in this situation. Be very specific, because one thing they just don't have, and that is time. Because when they have that time, they want to relax, they want to have their time. Okay, so that's my advice.
Yeah, and I think it's like, I would say when you're setting goals for yourself, I'm a big goal setter and what you want to accomplish, what you want to do. Like I tell my boys this all the time, you surround yourself with people who are better than you are, right? Who are doing it, they're doing it right, and reach out to them. It might take, a few times to get a response, but be persistent. And if
Yeah.
that's not the right person, somebody else will, I guarantee, will just naturally come to you.
Yeah. And
And
I think just asking also about their career journeys
Yeah.
and what they did to reach the level that they're at is always really helpful as well, because it gives you ideas and it gives you, I'm a big goal setter as well. I like to have, if I don't have goals, I don't know where I'm headed. So,
Same.
so that's my advice. But um, okay, I think I don't see any more questions. Um, and I just wanted to just see if there was anything else that Rachna or Poonam you wanted to add. We have, I think, another 2 minutes, and otherwise we can.
I would just say I
Oh,
am grateful to be on this panel, and kudos to Pam and her team for, you know, finding the niche of like, this is an area we need to talk about, right? So we are very fortunate to have that. I don't think we would have seen panels like this, 15, 20 years ago.
yeah, I agree.
yes, no. The only thing I will say is, and I'm shameless to say this for South Asians especially, that the West has got the process in very refinement, which is high value, but the East has got a lot of conscious consciousness science that has exceptionally high value. If we marry the two without hesitation, or start would be open to learning and integrating. We as a race, as a human race, would be better off whether it's Asian or non-Asian or Western or anywhere. And with that, I would again plug in, read my upcoming book, Varna CQ, Varna Know Your Why, and get close to yourself.
I love it. Well, I'm really excited that Rachna and Poonam, you were both on this panel. And I want to just thank the audience and, of course, Pramana for allowing us to kind of delve into this topic. So thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Shmuel. You did an amazing job.
And
Thank
thank you to
you.
our panelists. Thank you so much to our special moderator, Sharmila Fowler. And thank you to our audience. If you are here with us live, thank you for joining us. If you're watching this recording on our YouTube channel, we appreciate your support. Please make sure to click the bell for notifications for future posts and to subscribe. Thank you all. Hope to
Thank
see you
you.
again soon,
Thank you.
everyone.